What's up, guys? John Sintes here with the Cutternation podcast, coming at you guys again. I got another awesome guest off Instagram. Cole Newell of @CN Pitching is my guest today. But first, you know it, check out my online store. I got new Queso Nation shirts that just came out. I got my hats. I only have 4 left on my hats, so get them while you can. You can get anything on there. You can get dry fit. You can get J-bands, weighted balls, flush bands. You can get, let's see, the body blade-ish, the shoulder tube, whatever you call it, from Oat Specialties. I love those guys. Shout out to them. You can get a lot of new stuff on my site. You can also sign up for my summer training if you're in the San Diego area, as well as my online training. But without further ado, Cole Newell. Cole, I appreciate you coming, taking a little time out of your day. How's it going over there?
Hey, thanks for having me. Hey, just enjoying the weather out here in the Midwest. I mean, we finally got that weather here, so I know you're out there in the West Coast enjoying it all year round. So
it gets a little chilly down here. You know, it's not too bad. You know, it's not a Midwest snow, but you know, it'll get to it's gotten to 30s over here, 30s and 40s. It's not, but I know that's a summer breeze for you guys. You know.
Yeah, we're in shorts and t-shirt in the 30s. So.
Solid. Okay, so introduce yourself. Tell everybody where you're from, how you got your start. You know, I want to help bring some light to your page, because your Instagram page is one of my favorites, man. Because every time you post what your most recent page is,
for sure.
Of course, my internet's been crazy. Go ahead.
No, you're good. So. First name's Cole, last name Newell. I played 4 years college baseball. Started NAIA level, and then was a freshman, number 2, and I decided that I needed to change. Transferred to a Division II school in Emporia State here in Kansas. My first year, I ranked like 4th in the nation, so a big upgrade for myself. Always figured, I was a self-motivator, so I definitely had that motivation to be the best I can be on and off the field. So. Just a pitcher. I wanted to play third and short, but obviously I wasn't big enough or couldn't hit good enough, so I decided to just stick with the pitching. And the reason seeing pitching came up was I had a lot of people here in Kansas were asking me, like, hey, you doing lessons? Or you doing, workout plans? And because they knew who I was a little bit around here. They knew I kind of played at a good school here in Kansas, so they a lot of people were asking me about workouts, so I send them. They're like, wow, this is really good. I'm enjoying it a lot. I'm like, okay. And then just more traffic started coming. I was like, why don't I just have a place where I can send these people to check out stuff? And as a high school student and player, I didn't have anybody to help me. I was more of a self-taught pitcher. So anybody that could give me the information for free, because I had no money, I definitely digged it. So that's why I kind of throw stuff on my Instagram page. We're starting to get to the point where we are selling some things, whether it's a full workout plan. But from there, I mean, it's all golden so far.
That's cool. What part of Kansas are you in?
We're in Kansas City, so we got that big area. Baseball definitely picked up around here once the Royals won. So people are, enjoying the game a lot more. Soccer's big around here too. So trying to stick with the baseball stuff.
That's super interesting. I actually played a summer in the Jayhawk League over in Wichita, and
okay, yeah.
And so I'm very familiar. I still have some good friends and my host family that were over there. I really enjoyed that area of Kansas in the summer. Even being in like Liberal. I don't know if you've ever been to Liberal.
Oh yeah, I know. Yeah,
I remember playing in Liberal and seeing a slaughterhouse beyond left field, as well as what looked like tornadic activity. Yeah. And then for some reason, I was supposed to believe this person who said, no, we're like 10 miles away. We're safe. Right. And I just immediately did like a math problem of like, I don't know, tornado traveling at 50 miles an hour. Yeah. How quickly does it get here? Too fast. So let's get out of here,
Yeah, they here in Kansas City, we're pretty fortunate. It's a little hilly up here and a lot of rivers. So tornadoes don't happen as often. I live kind of south of the city, so we're a little flatter there. We've been getting some tornadoes lately, so.
So are you closer to Missouri?
No. I'm on the Kansas side. So there's Kansas City, Missouri, Kansas City, Kansas. I'm just south of Kansas City, Kansas. It's all one big. It's the same place. People are like, you're not from Kansas City. You're from blah blah blah, and I'm like, no, it's all the same. It's a metro.
I don't know what podcast you listen to, but I heard on Rogan the other day, and he was just talking about how we need to get rid of state lines because it really isn't that big a deal on
Right.
how things are going to agree with that after coming from the East Coast and coming over to the West Coast.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it is a different region, but we're all on the same mission. You know, we all just want to live and have fun and, you know, do what we can, you know?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's, I mean, most of those laws, not to get political or anything, but a lot of those laws are fairly similar in most states. So at this point, we're all, you know, under one. So that's my opinion on that.
Yeah, I hear you. It's, you definitely got to do what we can to not rock the boat, I guess you could say. Like people
sure.
get every time someone gets political on me, and depending on what's going on and what they're talking about, I immediately divert to the closest baseball game that I saw. Like, well, you know, the Yankees and Sox played, and that was a good series. You know, it was a good one. Really,
I just saw the Yankees on Friday night, so they're here in town. It was pretty cool.
Oh yeah, I got some list of some teams when they come down here to San Diego. I'm excited to see. I got to see Harvey right before he got traded, and he gave up a bomb.
Dude,
and I was like, oh no, not Maddie, not Batman.
He's still chucking it, but his head's in the wrong area when he was in New York. So
for sure. Well, and I'm happy he's in Cincinnati. Seems like he had a clean slate. You know, I don't know if you ever heard. This should be interesting. Did you ever hear what he did when he had his Tommy John?
No, I did not.
So this could be absolute ridiculousness, but I'm pretty sure I read an article on Derek Jeter's The Players Tribune, and apparently he went on a sabbatical because there's that time frame after your rehab.
Yeah.
Or what that time frame is, because I didn't have Tommy John. I had what doctors consider was much worse, but there's like a 3-month window where you can't throw, but you're healthy. And so you have to just kind of wait it out. You can keep training, you have full functionality, but your ligament is not ready to be put under that stress yet. You need to wait some. And so I guess I want to say he went to like Cambodia or something, like something sabbaticalness, where he took I'm pretty sure he took a nutritionist and a trainer. I think that's what he did. And who knows about the nutritionist or whatever. But he went somewhere where he could walk down the street and no one would mess with him, and he wanted to feel invisible, and he really wanted to have like a very, you know, introspective trip so he could really figure out why he was playing, if he wanted to do it, you know, what was the purpose behind everything to do there. And then you know, I just found that super interesting because that's just not a very common practice with a lot of ball players. Everybody's go, go, go. You don't really, the mental game, I believe, is the biggest weakness amongst ball players. And it's very hard to develop. You know, you can't really give somebody confidence. Even when you tell someone, you know, fake it till you make it, or, you know, you want to be a confident ball player. I believe confidence comes from success, and success could be a completely different, you know, opinion on certain things, you know?
Yeah. For sure. So that's pretty interesting. I didn't read that. I might have to go check it out here in a little bit. So that's pretty funny. I mean, I've been around guys that had Tommy John, and that's kind of how I got a lot of like my workout programs and throwing stuff is from those guys that had to go through that stuff. And luckily I didn't have to have it. I was almost borderline. I felt something, but we're healthy now, so that's good.
Yeah, so that's interesting. So you made it unscathed. Did you have any injuries at all?
So what they diagnosed me with, I think it was my junior year. We had a trainer from San Diego State. He just got hired on for our team, and I was like, sweet. This guy worked with a bunch, you know, Aztecs guys, and he'd probably learn more than anybody I've probably been around for the physical training part. So I was with him. I was like, he stretched me out before every time I threw, whether it was a bullpen, a scrimmage, game, whatnot. And in the fall ball, you know how it is. You know, 12 months of the year, man, you're grinding. So I started feeling some pain right above my back elbow. It was lower tricep. It was tricep tendinitis. So what we did was you could actually feel the tendon bubble up. So where you see, like, you know, where the guys are scraping their muscles. So I did another aspect of it. I just used basically a lacrosse ball, and then once I do that and soften it up, he would go in there, and it'd be a deep tissue massage. Nothing ordinary, unordinary or anything, but it was pretty interesting. That was the first time I've ever faced any injury, whether it was arm, body, anything. So I was like, this sucks. I want to get me back on the field. And after I started to get healthy, I just incorporated that stretching and warm up into my body because I did not want to face that again. And it kind of set me back where if I had most of that fall where I wasn't injured, I'd probably get a little more innings. So, but no regrets for me. But the that's why I'm teaching younger kids not to throw a hard slider or curveball until they're really old enough. The ligament doesn't really develop until they're probably 18, 19, 20 from the research I've done and an article I wrote on Tommy John, but they it really just depends on the kid, and it's hard to see those kids. I have a friend who's a trainer, and he's had 3 kids that are under 17 that's had it already, and I'm like, that's unbelievable. Under 17, you've already had Tommy John.
Yeah,
Haven't graduated high school yet.
yeah, that is crazy. I totally hear you on that. So with that, first of all, the technique's called the grasping for the guys, for the people at home. If you want to do some Googling, it's grasping. It's an awesome technique. I'm a big fan of grasping and ART release and stuff like that. It's crazy that you had that. I feel like I had a form of tricep tendinitis when I was in school. I don't know if you know this, but I actually broke my elbow with an avulsion fracture my senior year of college, and had 2 different doctors tell me I'd never throw again. And, which learning about it now, it's more about them covering up their side. Because if they say you can throw, then you'll misconstrue it as you'll come back fully, And I just didn't really accept it when they told me that, because the more I thought about it, it was just a bone. And so as we went through the process, it turned out to be this giant delayed process with all of these issues of scheduling and this and that. And so, first surgery, they put 2 screws into my elbow to stabilize the joint so it would finish healing. And it did. And then we came back later, and then I was still having pain, but in a new area, and ended up getting diagnosed by a former trainer buddy of mine who's a CrossFitter now, and was talking about how it was a nerve issue. Not like thoracic outlet syndrome, which is very popular today, but a result of the trauma to the elbow when I actually broke it. So apparently, when you have big issues and breaks like that, your nerves can create scar tissue and freak out on you. And that's kind of what happened with me. So they had to go back in a year later and do an ulnar nerve transposition, which is moving the funny bone out into a little less stressed area. And from there, it was really smooth sailing for there. So I was, making a full comeback was not an option. Not making a full comeback was not an option. That's what I was doing from there. So I'm familiar with you on the rehab and the stuff from there. And it was, I do remember specifically pointing to the back of my tricep, which is interesting, which is, for people that don't think tendonitis can get worse, I'm an example of of that situation. And you hear a lot of people talk about rest and stuff like that. Now, how did you attack your original issue when you had it? Did you do the 2 weeks off, or when did you start the grasping process?
Right. So once I started feeling a little bit of pain, I was like, okay, no worries. I'm gonna go ice it after practice. Went back in there. He's just like looking at it. He goes, okay, it's a little inflammation, no big deal. I'm like, okay. So I kept throwing on it. Once I got to the point where, like, dude, I can't throw. This hurts pretty bad. Where I'm not someone who's like, I feel a little bit of pain, I'm gonna stop. I'll go until I literally can't go anymore, and I couldn't. So we took off I didn't take off very many days because I couldn't, lose. I wasn't, a high recruit, so I couldn't lose those innings that were being thrown in inter squad or in a fall ball game. I couldn't lose those opportunities. So I took, over the weekends, I would just rest. I'd go to the gym and just do literally like, tricep pull downs with a band for like about 30 minutes, just stretch it out and trying to strengthen it as fast as I could. But it was probably 3, 4, 5 days. That's including a weekend off. So probably I was in practice and I would toss really lightly. And there's a few days I took throwing completely off because I was in the training room getting treatment. And 2 weeks probably would have been better, but I just couldn't afford to lose those opportunities on the field. So
Yeah, I think that's something that's different about today's generation. But I think that it's different, not in a good way or a bad way. I think it's just different. I think that the level of information awareness nowadays, you don't really have, at least for the people that I know. I have clients that I tell them all the time, if you feel something, I need to know. Like
Exactly.
I've been through so many issues. I had a kid, let's see, he was a new client about 3 weeks ago. First session, everything went well, didn't have too much high intensity stuff. Second session went real well, got some high intensity stuff. When he left, everything felt good. He didn't feel tired, no sore or anything. But when he woke up the next day, had a massive knot in
Yeah.
between his shoulder blade, and he's 12, doesn't really, and he's very pliable, doesn't really know what to do. Like the first
Right.
time he's ever felt something, but also the first time that he's actually tried to throw hard for a significant amount of time. So he came. I told his dad, "Hey, come in at this time. It'll take 10 to 15 minutes to get him kind of warmed up to feel good. If he responds well, which I hope he does, then we're on to something and let's continue that process. But if he's not, and that continues for a couple of days, then we should probably go get him checked out. But for the area that he was pointing, it was such a meaty area. It wasn't a red flag area as we would maybe front of the shoulder, back of the shoulder, elbow, wrist, something like that. It was a typical pitcher's knot where a 12-year-old hasn't learned that that's normal. You got a
Right.
lot of these kids that don't realize your body has reactions. If you go throw 100 pitches, your reaction to you throwing would be your body having a buildup of lactic acid and some other things that are going to slow you down as a result of that. So, it's very interesting hearing other people's
Right.
opinions and stories from there and trying to put them together.
Yeah, I think so. The guys I work with, I tell them, whether you're in a game or I'm not there, kind of exactly what you tell them. Let me know. A lot of so I've been umpiring for 10 years. I started when I was 13, and the reason I started seeing pitching, I kind of like didn't remember this when I was telling introduction, but the reason I started this is because as an umpire, I'm in a league where it's not like super competitive baseball. I'm seeing coaches teach these kids how to incorrectly throw a baseball, it's okay to throw 100 pitches. They think at a certain age they go off those charts that are completely wrong, because I've seen them on the fences on the fields, that it's okay to throw this amount of pitches in a certain amount of days. Well, I'm seeing kids come off the field holding their arm, and you're like, where's the education, these coaches? I think that one of my goals is to start an educational program for these coaches in this league so that they understand that they need to throw a certain amount of pitches in a week, not consecutive games. They need to properly take care of their arm before and after a game. Obviously, there's an age barrier there. When you're 9 years old, you don't really need the plyo care a 18-year-old would need, or a 15, vice versa. The the education for these coaches, being around, I'm sure California, that's baseball, that's where players are bred, but here in the Midwest, we don't get the winters to be outside. So these kids are thinking, oh, since I'm inside in close quarters, it's okay to keep throwing, since we're not throwing long toss or very far, that it's okay to keep throwing. But my point, I kind of fell off track. The point is, the Royals won the World Series in 2015, and baseball started to blow up here. And these parents have just started watching baseball probably in the last 3, 4, or 5 years, and they're listening to the announcers talk about it when themselves they haven't really been in it to play college ball, high school ball, even some pro ball. These guys never experience what it's like to take care of their body for a full season. So that's my goal, is to educate these players. But getting back to the injuries, it's tough to see somebody who has talent at a young age and then they hurt their arm from throwing a curveball at 11 years old. And my whole idea is to throw changeups rather than curveballs. I know you work with cutters, and I threw a very crappy cutter, but the whole idea, it's not like a curveball where you're snapping as violently as, let's say, a changeup cutter. I know my slider was pretty violent, so I that's probably the cause to my tricep tendinitis. But injuries are not fun, and I try to educate as many kids as I can. And I think it all comes down to just being uneducated on the field and training, and just from there. I mean, what is your take on that? Like the plyo for a certain amount of like 9 years old, 10 years old, or from there younger ages.
So I really I actually try to create a habit. I want to create an early habit for some of these young kids that I'm doing,
Okay.
that I work with. So with a lot of my kids, before and after every lesson, every game, every practice, any training session, I want them to create the habit that they start and end with bands. That way, that it's just a habit. It's just, I had a kid that I've been working with for a couple weeks, probably a month or two, and just really went up in his ability of throwing the ball, understanding what to do. He's very advanced in what his body is doing at 12. And his dad was telling me that from the very first session, I got through to him that he starts and ends every practice, every training session, every game with bands. And I think the last outing we had, he threw real well. I think he threw 6 innings. I think he threw his max 80. I think he ended up throwing like 87 pitches because he was on his very last batter in the 6th inning.
Yeah, let him go. Let him go.
Oh, exactly. I think you can't start a new batter at the max limit, but if you start with like 1 or 2 before, then you can finish it. And he struck out 12, and then as soon as the game was over, got in trouble with his head coach, which isn't his dad, because as soon as the game was over, they went and shook hands. He grabs his bands and goes over on the fence inside the diamond and starts doing his stuff. And the head coach was like, "Whoa, you need to come over here with the team, and we got to talk about the game." And he's like, "I can't. I can do it from here." And you got 12-year-olds stand up to a grown man, which I found that was awesome. He's like, I got to do my stuff. I got to do my recovery stuff so I don't get hurt. I can hear you. I can hear you. And those are little phrases that I like to give kids to explain to the coach. Like, look, I hear you. I respect you, but I need to take care of myself in this window so I feel good. And I take, as you were being an ice guy, I was an ice guy in college too. Yeah. But looking back on it now and doing the research, and I don't remember who put the article out. I think it was probably Driveline. They put out some pretty amazing stuff. Driveline or Modus or one of those guys, just talking about what ice actually does. And it makes total sense to me, because when I would ice, I would be the freaking, our trainer was the full, we were the 4-bag. It was front back. Yeah. Front back on the elbow, with the wrap, you were Michelin manned out, you couldn't do anything. You tried to put your jacket on, but you didn't even drape. You just draped it over it like it was a cloak. It never worked, But I just specifically remember, I was a D2 guy too, so I remember those long Saturdays. I'd go to dinner with my parents, and we're talking. You get there at 8, you leave at 5 or 6, and I might have thrown the first game, but we'd go to dinner 7, 8, whatever, and I'd get home, and hours afterwards, I still don't feel the same. I still feel tight. I would still feel almost cold, it just didn't feel normal. Not till the next day would I really start feeling like my arm would feel better,
That's funny, because my freshman year, I did ice. I was the ice guy, and I listened to, I think it was Tim Lincecum. He was in his like big prime. They just won like their second World Series. He was like, "I don't ice ever." And I'm like, "What?" Like, I grew up being told ice, ice, ice. What are you talking about? Well, I kind of researched it and looked it up, and I think he had an interview about it, and it made total sense. So I actually purchased bands, and I used those. Well, I've probably purchased 20 bands and lost every single one. So
by the way, you can get those on my website, by the way, everybody, if you need another pair.
Absolutely. But I mean, the thing is, like, once I started understanding what the bands do, and just to get that lactic acid out of your arm and your elbow, regardless of how you throw, just being able to stretch that out, and how ice, like you're saying, ice will definitely like tense up your muscles and it condenses your muscles to a point where if it could actually tear if you want to throw or work out the next day. But the whole idea was the bands help me in my routine before and after a game, kind of what you're saying. It's kind of funny how those mesh together. And I've been teaching the younger guys I'm working with that, even if you do like the simplest bands workout you can find, just like please do those after you throw. I'm not too big on like before because they do different stretches, which the static stretching is a little different nowadays with all that research. Like you're saying, the more dynamic movements I feel like are more helpful. But the where I'm getting to, I lost my train of thought. But the whole idea is that the bands help me further my career and throw actually harder. I know obviously it's different for each person, but I incorporated bands. If you see, I don't know if I put it on any of the workouts on my page, but those are actually in my warm-ups and after I work out, and I don't even throw very often anymore. So just when I'm giving lessons.
Yeah.
So it's pretty funny how those just stuck with me forever. And I like the idea. I haven't really heard anybody say that, but just kind of starting at a young age, getting the habit. I like that idea, so I might steal that from you.
No, go for it. That's the whole point of this. I want to put it out there for people, And so, okay, so and you said you're not. Correct me if I'm wrong. You said you're not big into bands before they throw.
Before, I do there's certain band exercises I do. I don't do the full plyo before the game. I'm big on the external rotation and the internal rotation. I did those before games, but for some reason that was just personally myself. I just kind of relayed that to some guys I work with, but personally, I did more bands after the fact because I didn't ice anymore when I was in school. I didn't ice after the games, so because I did the more of the bands. Obviously, my research on the bands aren't as like in depth as you and I know. I think it's Premier or somebody on that I'm talking to on Instagram. But before, I just try to get the kids as hot as possible, dynamically, whether it's running or I really enjoy the towel drill before a game for some reason because you're not putting any stress on your arm. There's a little bit of resistance in the air with the towel, and that way you can get your mechanics fundamentally sound and before you start getting on that mound before the game.
Okay, so I'm gonna send something your way and have you try it. Let's have you try it and then see what you do on your athletes, because like the efficiency of warming up, I think is the key for a younger kid to make it a habit. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like simplicity and the efficiency. So what I actually have my guys do is we do 4 easy exercises, but we do it for multiple reps. And we do them a little differently I do them different than Jager, than everybody else, but that's just on feel and then my own research. I'm not saying it's the right or wrong way, but I haven't had any complaints with the guys that do it. And I have guys that do it this way. I have guys that do it the other way where they just do kind of, and I'll explain it in just a second. But basically what I'm trying to do is create a pump situation in the shoulders. Okay. And so when we attach our bands to the fence, instead of going around the wrists, I just, for some reason, I've read the research. I understand from Jager and all them, take away the forearm. So it's a little bit more shoulder dominated when you're going around the wrist, but I'm a big believer in connection and having wrist, elbow, shoulder connection and be able to train that. So what we do is we grab the bands with our hands. We do a low row with both arms and we pinch our shoulder blades. And then the key to this is instead of just getting there and letting go, we hold it for 30 seconds. Now, what's been explained to me and what I feel is after about 6 to 10 seconds, your body realizes that it's under tension for a longer period of time and it shoots blood it changes where the blood is primarily going to and sends it into the shoulders. So when I do that for 30 seconds, then I let go, the release, every kid that I've worked with actually feels it on one rep. And they feel a little bit of the swelling back there. Then as they keep going, they do another set. We do 2 or 3, just depending on the age and the time frame that we have to work. But we normally do 3. And then by the time you get to the third one, you feel a real nice pump in the back, right? Then from there, we go to a flat field goal, which is your hands and elbows, like you can see right here. And that's going to attack a little bit more of the traps area to get that warmed up too. we're going to do the same exact thing. Try to get the elbows past the shoulders, so deeper as you can to hold it. And then we'll do that 2 to 3. And we rest about 10 to 15 seconds in between. And then the final one is we do a field goal hold with our arms are at 90-degree angles right there, but with a little external rotation where you're trying to get your hands to go past your shoulders. They're trying to get to right there. And that last one is probably my favorite, just on a couple things. When I'm evaluating a kid, I can see the shoulder stability, and it can I can guess what the athlete is going to kind of throw like based on how much those bands move and the stability of the joint. You know what I mean? I can tell if the guy's healthy or he has an injury or not, just basically on getting to that position. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's funny because I've incorporated like the holds in my workout plans, but when I was like I think it was my senior year, our pitching coach got him big into the Jaeger bands, so he bought a ton of bands for us, and it was a quick repetition, which I understand that. I like the holds a lot better. Absolutely, the quick motion, yeah, you want to get the quick twitch muscles activated, but I think you activate those once you start throwing. So
yeah, that's what I felt. I felt the same thing when I was in college, and we kind of did the J-band stuff too on it. We did all of the dynamic, faster type movements. Yeah. And then in comparison to, we never did it after, by the way. That was one of the things that I noticed in college. Like, we didn't do jobs. We did all this stuff training on the days that we weren't playing a game. And then the days we were playing the game, for some reason, the bands never came out. There was a bunch of things that were different than practice. And that's, it goes with the learning curve, the things that I've noticed that's why I'm trying to keep, like, creating that habit. As soon as you get to the field, all my kids, I try to tell them, I don't care if practice is at 6. You get there at 5:40, give yourself 20 minutes to jog on your own, do your bands, do your exercises that we've worked on that are helping you be successful. Then if your coach wants to do stand around a circle and do static stretching and you count to 8 like that, you're already ready to go. So you're not hurting yourself on what you're doing, and then you're not ruining his plan about doing it after and this and that. So it's always been an issue, with the militarization of baseball on kids growing up, but you just can't treat them that way. You gotta be able to give them the best information possible.
Yeah. And that's funny that a lot of the kids that you worked with that are younger are actually buying in that quick. I think that's awesome. And, I want a lot of my younger guys to buy in. They kind of like, I'm going to go play over here. It's like, man, we're not done yet. Let's get some more drills in, and, you want to start throwing more strikes. But I like that they're buying in for sure.
Yeah, it's cool. Fun, man. I've got a bunch of kids that when they come in, it's not a lesson, they train. And it's very cool how when they get there, this is what I say to them. I say, 3 sets of 30, do all 4 exercises. Oh, and then the last one is a chest fly, by the way, just to activate the front. To do a chest fly from there. So I go 3 sets of 30, 15 flies, and then let's go 10 holds and then 10 releases on their weighted balls. Even having younger guys do some weighted ball stuff, but not maximum effort. And the holds that they do, so like how you like to start with the towel drill. I take the same theory of that, but I go the opposite way because I believe that a heavier ball in your hand, you're more aware of where your hand is. Right. So if with my younger guys, they'll do a 14-ounce tap ball, which the internet loses their mind when the kid has it in their hand. But they have to understand that the kid is under instruction and he knows what, and he's trying to feel what feels good that day. He's never doing anything at 100% on his throws. He's just doing a throw hold where he's not letting go of the ball, which you can do the same thing with your glove in your hand if you're at the field, if you don't have a ball or from there. But just trying to feel these 3-4 exercises that you see my guys do in my videos in order for them to feel what their body's trying to do that day, how they feel, what they go from there. And after they do the bands and they do those balls, when they get that first baseball in their hand after they get going, every one of them feel good. And that's my whole goal to it, and the kids that I would consider at expert level with me, even at 10, 11, 12, all the way up to college, 20, 21, I'll tell them what to do. And because I try to make them be accountable about what they're doing, I won't talk to them for 15 or 20 minutes because I'm watching them to see if they're going through it, trying to diagnose the information. And instead of like what you see a lot of guys do, where like if they go to throw their ball and it doesn't hit the spot like it's supposed to, because I give them a spot for them to hit, and it goes up or it goes down, I let them do it 3 or 4 times to see if they can correct it, because
Exactly.
that self-correcting feel, it really gets down to who's throwing the baseball. The kid's throwing it, so you got to make sure that he's understanding and feeling what you're trying to tell him.
Yeah, and that's cool that with the weighted balls, I think you usually use 14, I believe, for a little quick warm up. When I was in high school, I took one of those 14s, and that's how I learned how to throw my changeup. My changeup is what got me a scholarship. My changeup, I threw hard, but I had something that looked like a fastball and died. I use that for that pronation on that changeup, so because it's heavier and you can feel it more often. I basically, when I would use the 14 and just bouncing off the wall, a quick low activation for the shoulder. But I think I did an earlier post. It was probably a couple weeks ago. I was just sitting at home and I was like thinking, and I think I was watching MLB Network or something, and I was just like, for weighted baseballs, I never really had used them. I used just like probably a 14 ounce or an 8 ounce, and that was it. That's all I had, and I would just throw that, kind of warm up with that. But I was just thinking. I read a study. Totally forgot what it was, or else I would decide it. But when people are swinging for hitters and they're using donut, it actually doesn't increase their bat speed. It decreases it. I don't hold me to it. I could be completely wrong, but that's what I read. I kind of like indented it in my brain. So I was just like, why not use like all growing up? My parents didn't have the money to, have a facility for me to go to train when I was younger. So we had a brick wall and I threw a tennis ball against the wall. Well, I saw myself throwing harder and harder. I'm like, this is weird. I actually cracked tennis balls from throwing so hard, which it's kind of crazy, but I mean, it's just rubber on the inside. It's not like it's a baseball. They're hollow, but I cracked it. I'm like, wow, I throw hard as heck. So I kind of like stood back now that I'm older, and I'm like, wait a minute, did a ball that's lighter than a baseball help me throw a baseball harder? Because I'm teaching my fast twitch muscles to work quicker because it's lighter. So I wrote a post. It was pretty long, and I was like, does throwing lighter actually increase your brain to teach your body to move quicker because it's lighter? Obviously, when I pick up a weighted baseball and I go down to a baseball, it feels like a feather, and you're throwing, looks like your ball is rising. But that was just my train of thought. I don't know what your thoughts are on that kind of an idea, but
No, I like that idea. I've been flirting with it a little bit more. The only issue that I ever ran into with the tennis ball is when I threw the tennis ball or the 3.5 ounce ball that everybody uses, it never felt good. So it was something that I kind of stayed away from. I noticed that my arm motion changed too much to as if with I had the baseball. So I would either overcompensate to get layback, or I would undercompensate and not get layback and almost stiff it to go through. And then when I would watch myself on video, that my throwing motion when I threw the baseball looked so much more connected, from there. And then I'll even send it back to you because I understand what you're saying with throwing the lighter ball. Was it throwing the lighter ball, or was it throwing fast twitch more often that made you throw a little bit harder? That's where I think the debate is with everything. And that's really what I like about what Driveline's putting out with like a lot of the stuff, their blog posts and the stuff, the people that I'm talking to that are going up there, they're really blowing the doors off on how often that you throw. And it really, for me, it makes a lot of sense after I got to play down in Mexico and talk to a lot of Latin ball players who throw year round. I know guys who threw for 15 years, summer, winter, summer, winter, summer, winter, and like never had an arm problem. And you start thinking about it, you looking at the body, and then, you do some more research and you find out that after 10 days of non-activity, atrophy starts setting in and you start losing range of motion and strength. And it would make total sense when you have this down. When I'm looking at my issues and when I got hurt, the down period of the Christmas break, the 3.5 weeks from there, is so devastating. I think, to college pitchers, the people who don't take that seriously, who go home and they may run and work out, but they don't continue the throwing process as aggressively as if they were in season, because the coach says, "Hey, go take a break. We'll kick it back up, January 1, or in your area, March or whatever." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
To go from there, and the strength is there. The strength takes a lot longer to go away, but the pliability and the elasticity of the muscles and the tendons and the ligaments are the first to go.
Yeah, and I'm wondering if these kids, I know some guys personally that started the weighted baseballs against the wall, whatnot, and they ended up having Tommy John. One kid tore his labrum. And I'm wondering how much of that is the kids kind of going off, whether it's a YouTube or a pamphlet that they order. Is that not learning correctly, not having somebody to direct them that, hey, the reason that your arm's starting to hurt it, you open up your front shoulder too early in this drill, or you're not pronating correctly, or maybe you should use a little lighter of a weighted ball, or whatever the case may be. Do you think some of that is the lack of instruction for these programs?
Good question. I think it's two things. One, I think it's lack of instruction, like you're saying, but I think mainly it's honesty and self-awareness with the athlete who's going through it. I think that anything that anything that you do in the weight room, or stretching or throwing, that hurts, if you continue to do it, it's going to progressively get worse, right? And so, for example, like how Driveline does their positive disconnection drill, right? And they do it from a very short-armed, and I understand why they do it. They have rotation and to get everything. But I just know when I do it that way, it doesn't quite feel good on my shoulder. You know what I mean? I've done it with lighter balls. I've done it with them. So I just modified the drill a little bit, and I have kids do it from more of a full arm throw, from a full arm swing, to get a little more momentum, and I don't have any issues with guys doing it. And when they do feel it, it's mainly on them, because maybe they're stopping their hand, or they're tightening up their shoulder because they're worried about what's going to happen. And so, I get a in order to be able to teach them the feeling. And it mainly, dude, it's crazy how even with the kids that I'm working with and the people that I talk to, and myself including, when I got hurt, I'd say upwards to 80% of the issues are lack of proper warm-up or staying warm in a game and stuff like that. And the day that I got hurt, man, it was Huntsville, Alabama. It was windy, it was cold, it was wet, and I spent an hour trying to get loose before, and I was already having that tricep tendinitis issue that was misdiagnosed to the training staff. They were just throwing ice and stem on it, not doing anything to strengthen it to get better. And talking to our weight room guy and everything, he was telling me, I was telling him about how it was hurting and stuff like that, and he was saying, sounds like you just got a little tendinitis, you just need to rest it. But we're going into it's a very catch-22 situation where you see a lot of guys that don't really are honest with what they're feeling. And I think that's what we run into with guys from there. But on the same side, if you aren't a strong enough athlete to be able to perform the weighted ball exercises, then you're going too heavy. I really like the exercises that those drills that I have my guys do. I think they're very, very valuable as teaching body awareness, what your arm's doing, when to apply force, and following through and feeling the drills in a safer, environment, with controlling your stress level, where you're not trying to strike a dude out and go from there. And so I think it's a combination of both things, what you're saying, where it is a lack of education, and then a lack of, putting it all together and understanding what you're actually doing when you're doing these drills.
Yeah, and definitely I see a point you brought up that kind of my mind's been wrapped around is the tensing up part in these drills. Um, and you see it in weightlifting as well, that when these guys are lifting, and their muscles are tensing up, that's just room for error, in my opinion. And these guys are lifting too heavy, whatnot. But like, I think a lot of that just tensing up too early. You see the guys that throw very well, and whether it's pro, college, high school, their bodies are loose. You can tell that there's no tension in the arm. They're just loose. I was always told that I have a quick and loose arm action, and I took a lot of pride in that because like I worked hard to be flexible, to be strong, and I like that point that you'll tense up in some of these drills where that causes a lot more tension than you even imagine in that arm. That it's a delicate muscle, your shoulder. I mean, it's a ball and socket joint, I believe, and I'm not a doctor, uh, but yeah, I mean, it can be dangerous, and with the lack of instruction and not having the proper athleticism to do these drills, whether you're a late bloomer or just don't have that athletic ability, it could definitely have some bad news.
Yeah, dude, I totally agree. And that's where, I really struggle with doing online programs because I would feel terrible and accountable if I had a kid do an online program and he went out and did something that I was going to tell him and I wasn't there to help him
Exactly.
process the information, and then he got hurt. Like that's not what I'm trying to do this for. I'm trying to do this because I was an unrecruited dude who basically got hurt listening to people tell me how to throw the baseball, even though my body was telling me this was not the way to go about it. And then got hurt, rehabbed all the way back, and touched 96 and was like, okay,
Yeah.
What I was doing was not exactly conducive before, but what I did to get myself back to that point, and I don't know what your thoughts are on Olympic lifting and stuff from there, but it seems like there's a divide on the internet. You're either here or you're there.
Exactly.
You're one way or the other. And I've always been like, well, why can't you do everything? Or why can't you pick and choose what you feel works for you and go from there? And that's really what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to go, okay, look, here you go. Here's your stuff. Let's use these weighted balls and control your intensity, control your output power, and be able to apply that same feeling onto when you're doing a baseball, when you're doing a shovel fire, when you're doing a running gun, when you're on the mound. And then let's rehab the body to get stronger so you can handle more stress and be able to train more so we can raise this velocity number. Because it's, I don't know if, how it is there in Kansas, but it definitely seems like it's pretty universal. A lot of people don't understand that if you aren't throwing a certain speed, you're not going to get there, and it, unfortunately, like for the people that are out there, 88 is not good enough. Like I hate to be that guy to say it, but it's a good number. Like I'm not discrediting the number. What I'm seeing, guys, and then the people that I know, because a lot of kids in America are only getting one side of it. You're getting the American side, right? Mm-hmm. I have a friend who has 2 kids, and 3 years ago when his son was 15. His son was 15. He was throwing 94. Now he's Dominican. He's from the Dominican. So he's throwing 94. And then his 12-year-old was throwing 88, 89. And I was like, you got to be kidding me. And now, granted, the guy he's 6'4", long arms, Yeah. But so I just asked him point blank, how do you have your 15-year-old 88 and how do you have your 12-year-old your 15-year-old at 94 and your 12-year-old 88? And he's like, dude, they've been throwing since they were in diapers. And it wasn't ever like throw to a spot. It was like, dad's 20 feet away. Can you make the throw? Yeah. And then he would mimic his body on how to shuffle and throw and show him what to do. You know what I mean? And so watching that and seeing all these Dominican guys come through, and you know what? It's not like the DR has it figured out. There's still plenty of Tommy Johns down there on lack of information and stuff like that down there too. There's plenty of dudes that I know down there that have had it. But in the same sense, there are still a lot of those guys on the top end who stay in the big leagues and have long careers without issues, you know?
Yeah, and I mean, you see that in Kansas. I mean, we're obviously when you touch a number, it's a big deal, and these guys around here, they think everybody thinks they have the answer. I try to stay away from like this is the right way, because I'm younger. I don't know. I mean, I've done some trial and error on myself, but how do I know that this is going to work for the kid down the street when he's 6'5" and I'm 6'1" and I weigh half the way he does? It just doesn't make sense to me. So, kind of get into the Olympic lifting, what you were saying. I incorporate those into my plans. I do personally, and then depending on the kids that ask me questions, I had some kids ask for workouts on Instagram, and so I was like, okay, how often are you in the gym? Explain to me, how you do this lift, whatnot. And I'm not huge on when you're in the gym. I don't know, or the gym I go to here, if you're in there with a cutoff, head on, and lifting as much as you can with the worst form, that's just injury waiting to happen. I'm not trying to stereotype anybody that wears whatever at the gym, but the whole idea is
totally can though. We all know that guy.
Yeah, but we all know who he is. The whole idea is I was that guy that I never lifted a lot, so I was kind of self-conscious to myself. It's like I'm not going in there going to be squatting 450, but I'll do I'll do 200 correctly, 5 sets of 6, and I found that was more beneficial to my body type and myself, because when I got on the pitching mound, I was throwing around my body. Like, my whole aspect of pitching is you're throwing your body weight. You're not throwing 450 pounds on your back and throwing a baseball. Yeah, that does help in strength if you're doing the lift correctly. If you're you're breathing correctly. There's so many aspects to weightlifting, and even throwing a baseball. I was that guy that when I threw, I saw in the pictures I could tell I'm holding my breath, and I know I probably could get it 2, 3, 4 more mile an hour just by breathing out correctly on the release of the ball. So I learned how teach myself how to do that.
That affects location too.
Right, exactly. And I mean, you see that in basketball. You see LeBron, breathing, standing right up and taking deep breaths, and that guy's playing 45 minutes a game. So, just with the weightlifting aspect, yeah, I do the Olympic lifts, but I'm not that guy in there throwing 6 plates on, because I don't want to arch my back in a deadlift. I don't want to, I don't want my knees to collapse in a squat. I'm going all the way to the ground and all the way up. Yeah, I'm sorry I have 135 on, but I guarantee I can beat you in any, whether it's a race or throwing a baseball. Like, it's just, that's how my mentality has always been. It's not how much you lift, it's how well you do it. It's more, was it quality over quantity is my idea.
A lot of the training guys that I get on here, we talk more and more about like that ability to get under load is what I believe these strength training guys call it, being under load, and then being aware of what your optimal load is for what you're doing. And I've been doing some experimenting with some workouts and stuff like that where I'm squatting and deadlifting 5, 6 load that you put on your body, and your first 2 weeks are kind of crazy because you get kind of stiff. And then from there, then you realize that your body and your brain is very pliable and adaptable to its environment. So then things just start quickly becoming looser and easier. It understands that it needs to stay in that attack mode more often. So you just kind of feel better, and it's very interesting and cool when I get to that point. I'm excited to kind of implement that and some of the things that I've learned with that into our summer training with our guys, because I've got some guys that just, one, I think anybody can play college baseball at any level. You just have to be honest and aware with what your ability level stacks up to those guys. And if if you hope to get there, you won't, because you're not looking at it in a very honest pattern to understand, I throw 89. Who on this team throws 89? Nobody. Everybody throws harder. Okay, then I'm not there yet. I need to be throwing 90 at least, like these guys. And then even then, I try to explain to some of the college or the high school kids, look, you don't want to go to a school. You can go to any school you want. You want to go to a school and play. You want to play the game. You don't work this hard to watch somebody else put the jersey on and play,
No. and that was what kind of like discouraged me not getting a lot of innings because I was like, what, I was throwing hard, but I mean, I don't know, I don't want to get into like politics or anything with whether it's sports, but the I didn't I looking back now, I could have done more, and that's like my least favorite thing ever to say is admit that I could have done a little bit more. But I don't regret anything that I've learned or done. It got me a degree and it got me a job, and now I'm doing something I love on the side, and hopefully that keeps going. But kids, they want to obviously hit 90. That's the magic number. Throwing hard, that's going to get you the money, the scholarships, and that helps. But the mind, having that mind and the mentality to go up there and throw it hard is big. And kind of this has been in the back of my mind since I started talking to you about the kid that didn't know how to throw hard. He kind of just went through the motion. Thought that was pretty cool. That once he started throwing hard, yeah, he started feeling some things in his back shoulder, but he's going to see such a big improvement because he's throwing hard. And I like to incorporate that in all of my workouts and try to trick the body as much as I can and being able to stay athletic and not get to the point where I'm overloading on everything and maxing out all the time because I want to have that whole idea of being able to throw like 6, 7, 8 innings consistently and having the correct form. That's just my whole philosophy. And I tell kids that ask me questions that are in high school, since I didn't have that guidance and I didn't start technically working out until my junior year, and then I started seeing drastic changes in my body and my ability on the field. But the whole idea is doing what's comfortable for yourself. If a workout that I told you to do is not comfortable, let me know, because I don't want you to get hurt, and I'm not there spotting you all the time. And I listen to Joe Rogan as well, and he said that he doesn't max out ever. I thought that was really interesting. So I was like, all right, I'm gonna start doing that. I'm not gonna max out at all. I'm gonna do 6 sets of 6. And so I mean I've been doing that, and actually for a little guy like myself, I've been seeing changes just because I kind of switched it up a little bit and didn't go 3 sets of 5 heavy. I switched it up on my body, and now I'm lifting heavier, and that's just my whole philosophy. It all comes down to how motivated are you. I mean,
Yeah.
no matter what you're doing, I was that kid that's self-motivated. So I always throw quotes on there that pop in my head and make a cool little graphic because I do graphic design. So I throw that on there, and if kids find that interesting, then I'm doing my job. And if they're like reading that quote on a Tuesday afternoon, and they're like, okay, maybe I should go hit the gym, then that's my whole goal here.
Dude,
And
I
that's
totally agree. I totally agree because I feel the exact same way you do about like the quotes and the motivation and stuff like that in there. And then I switched it up probably years ago. I stopped. Oh man, wow, probably when I first started rehabbing back, I stopped. I really stopped maxing out and was just trying to get to what felt heavy that day. Or, I kind of had a guess of what my max would be, but I just noticed that the muscle and the strength and then the performance side were so much better. I didn't have as much a bad time recovering, trying to do, I don't know, I don't really consider 1 rep a max. I really consider like a 2 or a 3 rep a max. And even then, like, I always felt like I wasted the day. I'd be like, all right, we're going to squat max. Okay. And then you do it. And then you'd be like, well, can I do some other stuff? They're like, no, you can't. And you're like, oh, okay, well, all right. Well, now what? They're like, well, you recovered again. And I'm like, oh, well, I just feel like I wasted 3 days of that timeline. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and that's the cool thing about like not maxing out is, yeah, sorry I don't look cool at the gym putting on plates, but my form looks good. I feel good. I'm able to do 6, 7, 8, 9 lifts in however long you're there. You're able to do those lifts efficiently. Yeah, it's not like super easy weight, but when you focus on what muscles those workouts are actually intended for, what those lifts are for, what they've been studied to do, you'll see the more improvement on your performance on the ball diamond, and that's why I try to do lift, cardio, lift for 5 days. My cardio is playing basketball for an hour or 2 hours, like because when you're shooting a basketball, you're working that wrist and you shoot your dominant arm. That's actually you're doing almost a shoulder raise. You're like a shoulder press cut. It depends how you shoot a ball. I'm not saying I'm like LeBron out there, but it helps. It helps with my athleticism. You're sprinting down the court. You're jumping. I mean, basketball is probably one of the best sports to play for athleticism. So
Yeah.
I try to. You might as well keep it fun when you're working out. So
Well, plus we're not really playing anymore. I mean, I know a lot of teammates that got hurt playing ball, but playing basketball and stuff like that. But that's because it come down to the same thing. They weren't being smart about it. They weren't keeping their paint, get a rebound, come down, step on a guy's foot, roll an ankle. But yeah, I agree. The start and stop motion and the athleticism of that whole thing. I play a little ball around here too, but it's never. I don't have the quality shoes to go out there and show these guys what's going on. You know what I mean?
Right. Right. I try to. I've been playing with some like 30, 35-year-olds, and these guys are freaking dominating. So I don't know what the heck's going on.
What's up with guys that are 30? I'm 32, man.
No. I'm just saying, like, I mean, they're like, look at this young guy out here, and they're like, well, you're fast. I'm like, well, man, I was an athlete, so. But yeah, I'm not dogging anybody. I'm almost 24, and I feel great. This is the best. I mean, I feel in better shape now than when I did when I was playing baseball in college, which is unbelievable. I was playing catch the other day, and I was like, hey, like, is it okay if I open it up a little bit on you just to see what the difference is? And like, I mean, my body felt more in tune. I think it's because I've been studying more of biomechanics of throwing a baseball anyway, but I mean, it's just crazy how when you kind of do the more research and teach yourself, then, there's more results out of there. But it's pretty crazy.
That goes back to what we were talking about before about being motivated, being, trying to learn, get the education up on everything. And I get DMs all the time. I'm sure you do too. And that's why I created a YouTube channel, because I really got tired of answering a lot of those questions. And I want it like, people like, oh, how do I throw harder? And I'm like, just send them over. I'm like, dude, there is so much free information you can do on your own time over here. Why don't you go over here, watch some videos, listen to some podcasts. I've got my, long toss strategy on how I do it, and that's why, like, if you go to my YouTube channel, I put like how to throw my cutter. It's not the best cutter. It's not this. It's just this is how I do it. And I see success with it. Give it a shot, give it a try. If you like it, great. And if you don't, it's not a big deal. Like, you're not going to hurt my feelings, right. Like it really isn't that big a deal on it, but dude, I had a guy the other day that saw one of the younger kids doing a weight, like DM me talking about child abuse, and he was going to call the cops and all this stuff. And I was just like, first of all, Canadian, let's just relax, like, it's not like the kid's doing well, and then his next outing, he gets 9 out of 10 batters out and hits a bomb. Like, okay, like, I understand the kid's 8, but he's just got better education and training going on than the rest of this kids in his little league. And now I'm even pumped for him too, because he went from the place that I work at has their own travel organization. I'm not even a part of it. I just rent out there. It just works out best for everybody. And he was a lower tier guy on his 8-year-old group. They have 2 different teams. They have a A team and a B team. And He was like a lower guy on the B team. And since we started working, his velocity went up. This is crazy. I think it's awesome though. I got an 8-year-old who can shuffle fire 55 miles an hour. And he started at 42 and he's fine. And that's
crazy.
It's athleticism, it's strength training, it's, and he's been consistent, and he goes out. He had an immaculate inning, and his parents didn't even know what it was. They were like, he threw 9 pitches and struck 3 guys out. I'm like, that's awesome. Like, that's one of the best things you can do. That's one of the best things you can do as a pitcher. And it was like
that's the hardest thing in my like. That's hard.
The
I don't think
closest
I've ever done that.
I've gotten to 7 twice. That's it. That's the closest I've ever gotten. And of course, like it was my fault. On the 8th pitch, like it was like, all right, here we go, 0-1, here we go, and you bounced it. Great job, great job, John. Really, really, you were really onto something right there.
You got the next one.
Yeah, no, that's exactly. Pretty. So, but and it just came down to everything that was working well for him. You could see it. We could see the radar going up. You could see the velocity going up. But the biggest thing was his overall confidence and his understanding of what he was doing, what he was trying to get his body to do, just went through the roof. And it was just, it just became second nature and easy for him. And then I take that and look at how, like my buddy who is from the Dominican that has 2 sons that throw absolute cheese. And it just seems like, oh, well, they just started earlier getting better information because his dad was a big leaguer and his dad throws hard. So he's just showing them what he's doing, and staying on top of them every day. And so it really just makes me wonder, and I ask you this question too, because I'll give you my opinion on it afterwards, but do you think that anybody can throw 90 miles an hour, or do you think that it's genetics?
Anybody can throw 90, man. That's a pretty tough question. I would say I hit 90, so, and I was little. I'm a little guy, so I mean, I mean, in my opinion, no. That's my opinion, because the reason being is some people have athleticism where it's just not there, that they can't physically get to the point where throwing a baseball at high velocity is in their genetics. So yeah, I would say it's more genetics than anything. All my brothers and I throw pretty decent, but I think it's just a lot of it is starting at an early age. You see a lot of kids, 9, 10, and 11-year-olds that are way higher developed than some like the recreational kids that I help a little, that I umpire. You see, it's just unbelievable. Like their level of development has, I don't know whether it's the parents teaching them or did it click earlier for them, but I would say most of it is genetics. But the scientific part of me wants to say, well, you're human, so if one human can do it, then it's possible for another person. So I mean, what's your take on that question? Yeah, that's a pretty tough question.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite to ask like, guys like you and other people in the pitching community. But I honestly think after me getting hurt, the people that I've been around, that I've seen with things, and then even like with seeing these success stories on the internet with stuff, and I think anybody can throw 90 miles an hour. Now, here's the issue that I think you're getting your head around and what you're looking at is that it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. I think that the time period to which that these people try to get to is the issue. If you're starting at a freshman in high school, and doesn't matter what your velocity is, and you're an average guy, you're probably going to be behind on that amount of time to increase your velocity to get to 90. That 4 years is still a lot of time. Yeah. You know what I mean? But looking at the guys, like for example, Aaron Hicks, this dude, I did a little research on him. I got to go back and read what I was saying and see what I found. But you can find stuff on these guys now because of the internet on the history of stuff, and dudes are just training earlier. And this was one of those guys. He's 22. He was, let me see if I can do a quick Google search on him. But the kid was always an animal. He was in the, it's obvious he's in the weight room. Hold on, let me see if I can find him. Aaron Hicks.
Yeah, I believe I think he's into plyo too, I believe.
I'm pretty sure he is too. Well, Cardinals are all into it. The Cardinals are huge into plyos.
Yeah.
They do them differently, though, too. They don't do them the same way. They do them a lot more. I think they use the 7 and 9 ounce ball more than a lot of guys on like a long toss day and develop. But also that goes back to trial and error. Certain guys doing certain things, you know.
Right.
I can't find the article I was looking at, but anyway, but it just made sense, you know. That they're talking. I think he's like a second rounder. You know, he was throwing like 96 out of high school and like all of that stuff. You just hear that formula so often. Like he was throwing hard in high school. He was obviously throwing hard before that. He looks like he's in the weight room. You know, he's got giant legs, really big shoulders, you know, which I think that's a very underdeveloped thing in baseball players and pitchers is, oh, here we go. It came up. You know, I think big titanium strong shoulders are, oh, I'm sorry. He's 21. Sorry.
Even better.
Yeah. He's from Houston, Texas. Let's see. Drafted. Let's see. Signed with Tulane, but was drafted in the. Well, it doesn't say when he's drafted, but he signed for $600,000. So, you know, obviously top 10 rounds. You know what I mean?
Right,
but he's always thrown hard. His ERA is always good. He's always had that pitch, you know, with his movement and stuff. But anyway, that's either here nor there. But there's just an example of a guy, and that's where I think it comes in for the point I was trying to make. It's obvious this guy started at a very early age training. And I think that the training side of baseball is so underdeveloped, and I'm sure it's like this in Kansas, but over in San Diego, you know, even the travel organization that I'm the place that I'm at, I don't coach with them, but the place I'm at, I just see weekend after weekend after weekend after weekend of these kids playing, and I don't think that's a bad thing because if you look at the rest of the world, they kind of doing the same thing. I think what the bad thing are these one ball practices that they have twice a week leading up to it. And the reason why I call it one ball, because that's if you watch it, and I'm sure you see it at your rec league, plays at one, you know, and the guy hits it, you know, and there's just lack of efficiency in the practices and stuff. But it really makes me question, and I'm hoping to, you know, have some clients that I can long-term research this where it's like, okay, cool. You've gotten stronger. These are the things that we've done to get you stronger, to get your legs stronger, to get you have your arm path down. You have your rehab. You know what you're doing. We're going to continue with your weight and things from there. And like I said, this little kid that's throwing, you know, he's shuffle firing 50 to 55, and I think he's touched 57, you know, at 8. By the time he gets to 12, he might be 65, 70 off the bump and already know what to do. And he's going to have a cutter. He's going to have a changeup. He's going to have a two-seam, you know, and he's just going to be ahead of everybody. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. And that's cool. Like, I mean, to your cutter, it's like my changeup's my go-to, and it'd be Changeup Nation if I could. But
dude, the story behind that Cutternation thing is so funny. Oh man, the story behind that's so funny. My first start in the Pecos League when I was rehabbing back, we play this team. I think I struck out 11, and you know, it was like my first real game back into it after, you know, basically 2.5, 3 years of not playing, and it was so funny that my catcher just kind of blurted it out. The team we were playing, we all went to this wings place after the game that was sponsored. But, you know, they sponsored the game. They were going to feed the players after the game. So we go to this place. We sit down and we're eating wings, having, you know, talking about the game. And I think we won like 5-2 or something like that, 5-1. And one of the guys from the opposing team walks over and he's like, okay, we have a debate. Can we talk to you? I'm like, sure. What's up, man? And he's like, did you throw 65 sliders today, all at like 88 miles an hour? Because we're all confused about what the hell you were throwing because nobody hit it and nobody knew what was going on. And I was like, before I could say a word, my catcher just jumped in and like being the cocky guy. And he's like, Cutternation, baby. Cutternation.
Yeah.
I was like, can I steal that? I'm going to steal that. That was good. Like, you know what I mean?
All day.
So it just kind of evolved from there. So shout out to Joey Friedman, my catcher. He probably doesn't even know I remember that story, but it was very impactful moment, you know, like in the movies.
Yeah.
All right,
That's
man. Well,
pretty
I've
funny.
eaten up a lot of your time. You got any more questions for me or anything? This was great. I feel like we had a good conversation.
Nah, man, I'll jump on again whenever you need me to. We'll continue the conversation for sure.
For sure. I'll definitely. I have an idea that I think is going to be cool. I can have up to 8 people on this format, and I was thinking about getting a nice round table where we could
Yeah.
talk more. The more good brains that we get into this, I think we can really divulge into some awesome, cool ideas and share some information because, you know, you not being an affiliated guy either, like myself, there's definitely like a boys club kind of thing going on in the affiliated world where you see multiple guys and all this stuff going around, and then you get the rest of this amateurs really trying to figure out what these guys are doing, and we're seeing it, and with the internet and slow-mo video and a lot of these resources of people putting out this great information, you can kind of start breaking it down and realizing that, okay, this guy's been doing this for this long and what's working and how that's showing his performance level. And Robbie Rowland is one of my
Yeah,
buddies that
Robbie's
I
a good
really enjoy his take on a lot of stuff with that, because he's kind of in the similar boat. He's in the indie world. He's trying to get himself back. He wants to throw 100, which I'm excited about. I got another buddy, Fabian Roland. Fabian, hold on, let me see. Anyway, but he throws 100. He was on a pitching ninja video. Let me pull him up real quick. If you don't follow him on Instagram,
Couldn't imagine throwing 100. I mean,
it's Fabian Roman. Okay, and he went to a tryout and was 98 to 100 and didn't get signed by affiliated teams. But it made sense when we started talking about it afterwards. He was a fastball slider guy, and so nowadays, like we went to the Mets Padres series, and the Mets ran out 2 rookies, both 6'8", both 90 to 96, and they were relievers as rookies and long relief guys. But the first guy was 6'8", 90 to 95 or something like that. But he was 4-seam, 2-seam, split, slider, changeup. Like he had everything. It wasn't a 2-pitch guy. And then the next guy came out from the left side, 94, 96, 2-seam, slurve, change, split. Like he threw the kitchen sink too. And so we started talking about it. I'm like, dude, you might need to show other pitches besides your cheese and your slider, which I'm sure he's been getting away with. And his slider's like 84. Like it's like from 98 to 84. Like you're going to be a day early. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it was. I showed him this. I showed him how
to different speeds on that.
100%. Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
Then I taught him the cutter. It was kind of cool. We did a FaceTime live like coaching session where I was like, okay, show me this. He threw it. I saw it. I'm like, okay, that means that your hand wasn't turned enough or you weren't releasing it the right way. And he figured it out. And then his cutter got to 80 to 88 to 91. I'm like, bro, listen to me. You go out and show that. You show 2-seam, 4-seam cutter, slider like that. You're good. Like who's not going to take you and you can locate it. And then he goes back out to another tryout. Now he's possibly going to Korea because he ended up impressing the right people, and all within like a 2-week time span. And I'm pumped for him. Like I'm going to follow him online. I'm like, dude, I hope that you just kill Korea now and go do your thing. And next thing you know, you're in the big leagues. And he's got a fro, and he's like he considers himself a model. Like he's hilarious. Like I wear him out all the time. Like he posts his most recent photo is him shirtless with like a hood up over his shoulder with like a dark shadow over his face, trying to be a model. Man, if he was in college, that thing would have been blown up by like 10 by 10. That would have been in the locker room, 10 by 10. Like, have you seen this model on the mound? But he's a good dude, man. He's a great dude.
That's awesome, man. Well, next time you have me on, we'll go deep into the changeup.
Sounds good.
More information on changeup than I need, so wouldn't mind sharing it next time. But
no, for sure, definitely.
That's awesome. No. I had a blast. Follow me, seeing pitching. We're putting out some stuff every day, workout plans. I'm just trying to get stuff out there for kids, man. Get them in the weight room early.
Or if you're in the South Kansas area, hit you up.
Yeah, you're in the Kansas City area, let me know. I'm not expensive, I promise. So if not, sometimes I do pro bono. So just let me know. If you have any questions, John, you as well, just let me know, and I look forward to being back on.
Definitely, we will definitely get another change up. I just had a cool idea. I'll share it with you off the air. Don't go anywhere when I sign off.
Yeah, no problem.
But and definitely cool idea that I think for a round table thing. But all right, guys, check him out. CN Pitching on Instagram. DM him. Check him out. Check out his website. Check out his. Oh, you don't have your website listed on your Instagram, by the way.
No website right now. We're getting it up and running soon.
Oh, okay.
Right now, just rolling with the Instagram, socials where it's at. So
yeah, cool. Yeah, so just check him out on Instagram from there. Send him a DM. He always has great posts. I just reshared one of your. And another one. I like this K Zone. That's a good one. I'm a big repost fan. It's easy and it's fun, especially when you find cool stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
So, all right. Well, one last thing. Don't forget, check out my online store. Subscribe to my podcast. This will be on iTunes too. Subscribe to my YouTube channel. There's awesome videos on how to throw all my pitches. And then we'll definitely get some stuff here with my man here soon. I'm excited about all that stuff in the future. But if you got anything else, man, you want one more shout out? Anything else?
Nah, no shout out. Shout out to my fiance, Rachel Worth. Last day of school. She's third grade teacher. So great job this year. First year teaching. So looking forward to many more.
Great brownie points. Yeah, shout out to my fiance too. She's amazing.
Right on.
She loves to be on my Insta story and like.
I give them the credit, man. They're behind the scenes.
Oh, for sure. She deals with my drama all the time. All the time. All right, man. Well, if you don't have anything else, then there's one more thing. Don't forget, throw hard.